Hi, I'm Andrea Blythe, and today I'm going to read to you a bit from my collaborative chapbook that I wrote with Laura Madeline Wiseman. It's Every Girl Becomes the Wolf. It's kind of about monstrous women and retelling them from new points of view. So I'll just go ahead and get into it. The first poem I'm going to read is The Path That Cuts Through Famine. Loneliness is a hunger that sours the gut. But when cupboards hold only crumbs, a woman can endure the absence of laughter bubbling, can usher small bodies away from her hearth. What matters what we strew? White pebbles, lentils, or bread crusts? Whose lives are the better to starve or plumb on confections and cake? Yesterday I drew the paths to home in marzipan, and then I ate until I ached. Why do I never feel full? Gingerbread cookies, peanut brownies, another scoop of ice cream. Even sweets bitter the bored tongue. These woods fill with hungry things like me, a want that guides into the underbrush while I crouch in preoccupation. Food or children. Another meal for a woodcutter or the stepchildren. Birds flit. Some peck what settles a path. Others stand as white beacons. In our kitchen, we have an object like a cage, iron walled, big enough to crawl inside. I keep my books there, close the door, pretend they're simple recipes to guard. Except you, no one sits to eat what I bake. Slumped shoulders, the axe beside the kitchen door. You rub the calluses on your hand, lingering over the cracks. I bring you hot, sweet meat pie. Watch your mouthfuls until you ask for more. When you reach for me, I feel your bones, fingers, jaw, knobby shelf of hips. Is there nothing to eat out there in the forest? I murmur against your throat. At least we have this warmth. But then that boy, that girl call out demands for their own warmth to consume on the porch. Mother, they say. I shudder, sense what starves inside their skin, their little hands, sticky fingers I am unable to bear. But with you, I no longer ache. I'm like a vase of jewels and stones. Pull out any rock and worry it. Place a pin at your throat. Slide onto a finger a promise to soften and reshape with time. Have you had enough yet, you ask? My answer is never, but instead we kiss, our mouths sweet with sugared tarts. In the morning, when they've left with the last of the bread, I hide your axe. The next poem I'm going to read from the book is The Hellos from the Corners of Quiet Rooms. They cavort through tombstones in skinny jeans, Converse high tops, and Ray-Bans to play at conjuring ghosts. They imitate the 80s, but they weren't there. They never saw poltergeists, never the flicker of afterlife, silverware bending on its own, chairs sliding across the floor by forces unseen, voices speaking from distant spaces, or mirrors glittering in the night. Even now, TVs make me cringe, I tell one. Then to another, when I visit my sister, I stay at hotels and I always drape towels over the screens. They laugh, skipping over a freshly dug grave. Why did I agree to meet them here? One tosses faux flowers, another twirls faded pinwheels. When my sister bought an old farmhouse, one room became her wardrobe. Among the antique mirrors, she placed ankle-length skirts, leather kid gloves, parasols. Every time the door slammed shut, children's hands touched her ankles or shook lacy slips. They're harmless, she said, though other things bothered her. The boarded-up windows, the attic that groaned with the wind, the room with the peeling closet doors. When he beat her over the money he lost and then left her, she rented that room to strangers who became the kind of friends who pounded the walls, remained in the kitchen after midnight, left hotline numbers tucked behind their coffee cups. I brought my sister comfort in the form of old movies, the kind that crept under the skin, then stayed with her late into the dark. How many times does it take until a film fuses with the psyche, the fuzz of static hisses when palms press against screens? Hellos echo in the room my sister knew as hell. They're here. Others may leave, but some cannot, sometimes even kin. I learned to sleep alone, clutching a pillow against shadowed corners and empty doorways. I jump when objects fall, my eyes snapping open, feeling the trace of their hands whisper against limbs slipped from sheets. I never again stayed with my sister after that last time. Who would? Alone, she sings lullabies for children's spirits well past midnight. Others bring Ouija boards, gazing balls, or candles, as if an invitation is needed. It's these I meet in the cemetery now, the ones who want to visit the home my sister refused to leave. Would they even see what presses from every opening there? Every home has such secrets, foundations built over what should never have been maimed. No escape, just a move into another set of flickering rooms, then wait for the hello. Next, I want to read one last poem, which is a poem from a forthcoming chapbook, which will be published by Interstellar Flight Press. It hasn't officially been announced yet, but I guess I'm announcing it now. The poems in this book are based on the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale, and they kind of continue the storyline, and we learn what happens to each princess after the events of the fairy tale ended. This is the seventh sister. All things broken down into their constituent parts reveal truth. Her rooms reflected this belief with their cacophony of flasks, vials, jars full of sulfurs and lye and mercury, mortar and pestle stained with the crushed remains of seed and leaf and mineral, various alembics and retorts distilling the foul-smelling liquids over small flames. The tables were scattered with charts and papers filled with notes and formula, and a portion of the palace gardens were reserved for her cultivation of plants with a multitude of uses. She could determine the exact chemical content of a mineral compound or distill the essence of flowers, the milky sap of a poppy rendered down into a sleeping draught or concentrated further into poison. Even lead could be transmuted into gold if you understood the intricacies of the material world. But she had a greater mystery to unlock, the alchemy of the soul. She began with the body, examining creatures of lesser form, creatures trapped in formaldehyde, mice, snakes, birds, cats, lizards, rabbits. She dismantled them into their base elements: hair, skin, scale, teeth, muscle, bone. Pieces labeled and categorized for further study. As she grew closer to her understanding of the factors that bound the sulfuric soul to the mercurial flesh, she needed to move her research closer to her true goal, the study of man. A person had to be unmade in order to be made. The salt and water body opened and picked apart in order to reveal its secrets. But it was infinitely more difficult to find specimens for such a project without misunderstanding and censure. One could not perform such work on the great lords and ladies of the household, and the servants quickly learned to fear her, shying away whenever she approached. Corpses wrapped in shrouds, on the other hand, would have been too long detached from the soul that animate them to be useful. So she turned to the only specimen she had left. She laid herself before the crucible, prepared to render down and clarify her own body and soul into their purest form. Thank you. If you want to know more about my work, you can check out my website, AndreaBlythe.com, and I am on Twitter and Instagram at Andrea Blythe. Yeah, I